Hello and welcome back to the Yours and Old FoMoCo Iron YouTube channel. My name is Adrian Clements, and before we begin, I want to remind you when you're done watching this video to please check out some of my other videos, numbers 1 through 14 on my channel. Thank you. Today in video number 15, we're going to learn the true story of Ford Motor Company's 1968 W code 427 cubic inch, 4-barrel, 390 horsepower V8 engine. Many of you have probably heard a story about somebody's uncle's brother's cousin who had a 68 Mustang with a factory 427 engine. Could this be true? What 1968 FoMoCo vehicles were available with a 427 engine, and how many were built? Well, let's get started. Even before the 1968 Fords, Mercurys, and Lincolns were introduced to the buying public on Friday, September 22, 1967, information about the availability of a new 427 engine from Ford Motor Company appeared in newspapers. These articles were based on FoMoCo's press release for the 1968 model year, as much of the verbiage between the articles is similar or even identical. Here are some of the statements made in these articles about the new 427 engine. The high-performance power plant is a hydraulic valve version of Ford's famous 427 cubic inch engine, rated at 390 horsepower, which is available only with a Cruise-O-Matic transmission. The 427 engine offered in 1968 differs from earlier versions in that it has hydraulic rather than mechanical valve lifters for quieter operation and reduced maintenance requirements. Greater performance is offered with a new 390 horsepower, 427 cubic inch, 4-barrel V8 engine option. It provides outstanding performance and durability, plus such features as stronger crankshaft material, new lightweight pistons, and more rigid connecting rods. The day before introduction of the 1968 models, on Thursday, September 21, 1967, this Ford Motor Company of Canada Limited newspaper advertisement entitled "The 68 Fords Are Here Today" touted the availability of a 427 CID V8 in the Torino GT. A couple of months into the 1968 model year, on Tuesday, November 14, 1967, this newspaper advertisement entitled, "For 1968, Mercury's Got It, the fine car touch inspired by the Continental," appeared, showing the 427 engine available in the Montego and Cougar GTE. What these ads clearly lay out is that at the beginning of the 1968 model year, in September 1967, the 427 4-barrel 390 horsepower hydraulic lifter V8 engine was available in the Ford full-size, Fairlane, Mustang, Cougar GTE, and Montego lineups. The introduction section of the 1968 Ford Carfax book shows us that the 427 4-barrel V8 high-performance hydraulic lifter engine rated at 390 horsepower was engine code W, which is the 5th digit in the vehicle identification number, or VIN. As an aside, W was also the VIN engine code for the 1966 and 1967 427 4-barrel 410 horsepower high-performance solid lifter V8 engine available in 1966 and 1967 Ford full-size cars and the 1967 Ford and Mercury intermediate lineups. Page 13 of Section A, Ford full-size car, in the 1968 Ford Carfax book shows that the W code 427 4-barrel engine was available only with the Select Shift Cruise-O-Matic 3-speed automatic transmission in non-station wagon models. Section B, page 10 of the Fairlane part of the 1968 Ford Carfax book shows that the 427 4-barrel engine was available only with a Select Shift Cruise-O-Matic 3-speed automatic transmission in non-station wagon models. Page 4 of Section D, Mustang, in the 1968 Ford Carfax book shows that the W code 427 4-barrel engine was available only with a Select Shift Cruise-O-Matic 3-speed automatic transmission. Section G, page 8 of the engine portion of the 1968 Ford Carfax book gives the specifications for and information about the W code 427 4-barrel V8 engine. It developed 390 horsepower at 5,600 RPM and 460 pound-force-feet of torque at 3,200 RPM with a 10.9 to 1 compression ratio and hydraulic valve lifters. Compare these numbers with the 1966 and 1967 version of the W-Code 427 4-barrel V8 engine that developed 410 horsepower at 5,600 RPM, 476 pound-force-feet of torque at 3,400 RPM, with an 11.1 to 1 compression ratio and solid valve lifters. Summarizing the differences, the 1968 427 4-barrel engine developed 20 less horsepower at the same RPM, 16 fewer pound-force-feet of torque at 200 fewer RPM, with a 0.2 to 1 lower compression ratio and hydraulic versus solid lifters. This page has the following to say about the 1968 427 4-barrel engine. The 427 V8 is a true high-performance engine offering the ultimate in power and performance with outstanding reliability for sustained high RPM operation. New for 1968 is the addition of hydraulic valve lifters which offer extra quiet operation and the elimination of periodic valve adjustment. Also in 68, the 427 is offered only with a heavy-duty version of Ford's Select Shift Cruise-O-Matic. This transmission, with its manual shift features, is ideal for the buyer of the 427, giving him through-the-gears performance or the convenience of automatic driving. Astute viewers will notice that the image of the 427 4-barrel engine shown on Section G, page 8 of the 1968 Ford Carfax book is actually of the W-Code 427 4-barrel 410 horsepower V8 installed in 1967 Ford and Mercury intermediate cars, as evidenced by the exhaust manifolds that were unique to that application. Pages 2A and 3A of the Cougar section of the 1968 Lincoln-Mercury databook shows that the Cougar 427E V8 4-barrel engine was solely available in the new Cougar 7-liter GTE hardtop and only with a Select Shift Merc-O-Matic 3-speed automatic transmission. Page 2B of the Montego section of the 1968 Lincoln-Mercury databook shows that the Cyclone 427 V8 4-barrel engine was available only in the Comet Sports Coupe, Montego, Montego MX, Cyclone, and Cyclone GT two-door formal hardtop models, and the Cyclone and Cyclone GT two-door fastback hardtop models, all with a Select Shift Merc-O-Matic 3-speed automatic transmission only. Page 7D of the Engine Features section of the 1968 Lincoln-Mercury databook has the same horsepower, torque, compression ratio, and valve lifter information as the comparable page in the 1968 Ford Carfax book already reviewed. This page has the following to say about the special construction features of the 1968 427 4-barrel engine. High compression cylinder heads and aluminum intake manifold with large unobstructed intake passages. Special high RPM camshaft, hydraulic valve lifters, large intake and exhaust valves, and heavy-duty valve springs for maximum torque output and power at high RPMs without valve float. Impact extruded pistons and special connecting rods for high strength and superior resistance to heat and stress. Cross bolts through lower cylinder block casting to main bearing caps for precise bearing alignment under high RPM operation. High capacity oil pump for more positive lubrication at high RPMs. High capacity fuel pump with integral fuel filter. Low restriction dual exhaust. Power booster fan for reduced sound level and higher performance. Requires only 10 to 20% as much power as conventional fans at highway cruising speeds. Engine dress-up including bright air cleaner assembly, rocker arm covers, oil dipstick handle, and oil filler cap. Astute viewers will again notice that the image of the 427 4-barrel engine shown on page 7D of the Engine Features section of the 1968 Lincoln-Mercury databook is the same image shown in section G, page 8 of the 1968 Ford Carfax book, and is actually the W code 427 4-barrel 410 horsepower V8 installed in 1967 Ford and Mercury intermediate cars, as evidenced by the application-specific exhaust manifolds. The 1968 Ford Car Service Specifications booklet shows on page 8-1 which vehicle lines were available with the 427 4-barrel V8 engine, namely Ford, Cougar, Fairlane, Montego, and Mustang. This information aligns perfectly with what has already been reviewed, right down to this engine only being available with an automatic transmission. Pages A29 and B24 in the exterior molding illustrations section of the illustrations portion of the 1965 to 72 Ford Cars Master Parts and Accessories Catalog book from May 1975, FoMoCo Form FP7635-A, shows us that the engine displacement front fender emblems for the Ford and Fairlane lineups was base part number 16228. Page 9 of section 161 of the text portion of the same book shows us that the 427 fender flags for the 1968 Ford were part number C8AZ16228-A, and for the 1968 and 69 Fairlane were part number C8OZ16228-A. The fact that there is only one part number for each application indicates that these 427 fender flags were not side-specific. Both sides of the car received the same emblem. These photos of a set of new old stock 1968 Ford 427 fender emblems, part number C8AZ16228-A, were provided by Tony Lawler of the Tony's Car Care channel here on YouTube. Thank you, Tony. Please check out his content and subscribe. These fender emblems were produced by Fox Company out of Cincinnati, Ohio, who produced a large number of different aluminum trim pieces for 1960s FoMoCo vehicles. This is the only photo I could find of the 1968 Fairlane 427 fender emblem, part number C8OZ16228-A. Please don't get too excited that this photo shows the badge mounted on a car. More on that soon. Interestingly, there is no listing in the parts book for a front fender Mustang running horse emblem with 427 in it, like there was for the 302 and 390 equipped Mustangs. Page C19 in the exterior molding illustration section of the illustrations portion of the 1965 to 72 Lincoln-Mercury Cars Master Parts and Accessories Catalog book from November 1975, FoMoCo Form FP7566-A, shows us that the engine displacement front fender emblems for the Montego lineup was base part number 16228. Page 16 of section 160 of the text portion of the same book shows us that the 427 fender flags for the 1968 Montego were part number C8OZ16228-A, the same number used on 1968 and 1969 Ford Fairlanes. The fact that there is only one part number indicates that these 427 fender flags were not side-specific. Both sides of the car received the same emblem. Page F4 in the exterior molding illustration section of the illustrations portion of the same book shows us that the engine displacement front fender emblems for the Cougar GTE was base part number 16098. Page 11 of section 160 of the text portion of the same book shows us that the 7-liter GTE fender flags for the 1968 Cougar GTE were part number C8WY16098-F for the right-hand side and C8WY16099-A for the left-hand side. The fact that there are two part numbers indicates that these 7-liter GTE fender flags were side-specific. Each side of the car received a different emblem. So the 427 fender emblem used for the Montego is the same one used for the Fairlane, meaning that the Ford and Mercury intermediates used the same design of 427 fender flag. These photos show a set of NOS C8WY16098-F, right hand, and C8WY16099-A, left hand, 7-liter GTE fender emblems. They really are a striking design. These photos are of an actual tire label installed on the inside glove box door of a 1968 Ford full-size car and show the recommended tire size and cold inflation pressure for all 427 equipped Fords. The next photos are of a reproduction Mustang tire label that also lists the specs for 427 equipped Mustangs. So we have seen that the FoMoCo literature agrees that the new W code 427 4-barrel 390 horsepower V8 engine with hydraulic valve lifters was available only in the 1968 Ford full-size, Fairlane, and Mustang lineups with a select-shift Cruise-O-Matic 3-speed automatic transmission, and in the 1968 Mercury Montego lineup and Cougar GTE with a select-shift Merc-O-Matic 3-speed automatic transmission. But what vehicles did Ford Motor Company actually produce with a 427 engine for the 1968 model year? I posed this exact question to Kevin Marty of Marty Auto Works during a phone call more than 20 years ago. Kevin's answer was that the Ford Electronic Production Records database showed that there were 0 1968 Ford full-size, Fairlane, Mustang, and Montego vehicles that were VINed to have the W code 427 4-barrel 390 horsepower V8 engine. Only some 1968 Mercury Cougar GTEs were actually VINed to have the W code 427 4-barrel engine. This 1968 Ford Better Ideas sales catalog had an additional information for 1968 page in it from Tuesday, December 12, 1967. Which stipulates that the 427 cubic inch 4-barrel Cobra V8 engine was no longer available in the Mustang, Ford, and Fairlane lineups. Also in December 1967, though the day of the month is unspecified, an update was published for the 1968 Lincoln-Mercury data book in the form of a news flash, FoMoCo form number LM68-120. Page 5E of the update section shows that the Cyclone 427 V8 4-barrel engine has been canceled in the Montego lineup. Meanwhile, page 6E of the update section shows that the Cougar 427E V8 4-barrel engine to be standard and available with Cougar 7-liter GTE only and just with the select-shift Merc-O-Matic transmission. Page 7E of the news flash has a photo of a Cougar XR7 GTE hardtop at the bottom. And finally, the W code 427 4-barrel 390 horsepower V8 engine with the correct exhaust manifolds for the 1968 Cougar GTE at upper left. The verbiage beneath that picture reads as follows. The 427 cubic inch Cougar 427E V8 gives the Cougar GTE the largest and most powerful engine in its class. This street version of the famous competition-proven 427 is rated at 390 horsepower at 5,600 RPM. Power booster fan, bright engine dress-up, and dual exhaust lines with quad outlets are all included, along with other performance features. This screenshot from Wikipedia shows that the 1968 Mercury Cougar GTE hardtop production number was 394 units in total, with 357, or 90.6% of those, having the W code 427 4-barrel 390 horsepower V8 engine, and 37, or 9.4%, having the R code 428 Cobra Jet Ram Air 335 horsepower V8 engine. This change from 427 4-barrel to 428 Cobra Jet 4-barrel partway through the production of the Cougar GTE happened when the W code 427 4-barrel was discontinued before the end of 1968 model year production. Before you scoff at Wikipedia as a reference source, the Wikipedia figures exactly match those shown online by the GTE registry. So let's step back a second and have a look at this production number. Despite all of the developmental costs, despite all of the newspaper articles and early 1968 FoMoCo literature that touted the availability of the new hydraulic lifter 427 4-barrel 390 horsepower V8 engine in 5 FoMoCo vehicle lines, and despite the production of unique 427 fender flags for the Ford full-size cars and the Fairlane and Montego vehicle lines, a mere 357 actual units with the 427 4-barrel engine were built. That number of 357 units is so low that it could have been produced in 1 day of regular production at any of FoMoCo's 20 assembly plants that were operating for the 1968 model year. 1 day. This 1968 Mercury Cougar XR7 GTE hardtop, VIN 8F93W537983, ran through the Mecum auction in Kissimmee, Florida in January 2021. This car is painted cardinal red, color code T, with a dark red leather and vinyl bucket seat interior, trim code 6D, and has the W code 427 4-barrel 390 horsepower hydraulic lifter V8 engine and C6 select shift Mercomatic floor shift 3-speed automatic transmission. This GTE was sold new at Sam Priestley Lincoln-Mercury Incorporated in Oceanside, California. This car has been beautifully restored and looks essentially brand new. So what happened with the 1968 W code 427 4-barrel 390 horsepower V8 engine? Why was it canceled in the Ford, Fairlane, Mustang, and Montego vehicle lines in December 1967 after zero had been built in the 4 months since the start of 1968 model year production in late August 1967? And why were only 357 Cougar GTEs built with the 427 engine? To answer the first question, I propose that the 68-day UAW strike at Ford plants in the U.S. that ran from Wednesday, September 6, 1967, to Sunday, November 12, 1967, may be to blame. The strike cost Ford millions of dollars in lost profits, and once the workers had returned to building FoMoCo vehicles in the assembly plants, management was hard at work figuring out ways to save money. Some formerly standard equipment was eliminated or became optional, such as the standard front and rear bumper guards on the Mustang became optional, the windshield pillar padding on all models was replaced with painted metal, the left-hand bumper step was eliminated on Ford and Mercury full-size wagons with seats in the rear area, and the 302 fender flag on Ford Intermediates was deleted from production, to name just a few of the changes. So perhaps the 427 4-barrel engine was canceled in the Ford, Fairlane, Mustang, and Montego vehicle lines as a cost-saving measure. As for why only 357 Cougar GTEs were built for the 1968 model year, it may have simply been a question of price. The GTE option cost $1,311, whether it was ordered on a Cougar with a base price of $2,933, or a Cougar XR7 with a base price of $3,231. That $1,311 represented 44.7% of the base price of the Cougar and 40.6% for the Cougar XR7, a huge increase in cost for the customer. Thank you for watching video number 15. I hope you enjoyed it and found it informative. Please be sure to check out videos number 1 through 14 on my channel for more interesting FoMoCo-related content. Please like, comment, and be sure to subscribe. There are lots more videos coming, so subscribe and be notified as each new video is released. If you have any questions or if you have a suggestion for a future video topic, please feel free to email me at adrian.clements@me.com. Yours in Old FoMoCo Iron, Adrian.